So that I'm not like a nervous speaker, but I don't know, like it's been a while. So
Hello, Nina. Thank you for talking to Savant today.
oh, thank you for having me.
I have a few questions for you that you have agreed to answer for us. Let me start with one that most people are wondering about right now. Are you still working from home or are you back at the office?
Yeah, well, as you can see from my background, I am in the office today. We reopened our offices after the latest restrictions easing in London. And yeah, it makes such a difference. So I'll be in the office a few days a week and then working from home as well. But for someone who is an extrovert, being at home alone and working from there has been quite difficult in terms of maintaining motivation and just, energy and passion. So I'm really, really excited to be able to come back into the office at least for a few days a week.
As an introvert, I take the opposite opinion, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's great about Farfetch is that flexibility, like it's not expected that you will be here all the time. So there's caters to all the different personality types and needs.
As an expert on innovation, you're focusing very much on the future. What do you think will be the biggest change in how customers shop in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think that it's less about the innovation and more just about a lot of the trends that we see in the research that we do as part of our role within innovation. But the trends around sustainability and circularity that are getting a lot of passion and energy behind them right now are very exciting to me. And I think that will present a really big change in the way that customers shop. We already see the emergence of lots of new rental models, lots of new resale platforms. And we see retailers, Selfridges is a great example, who have typically made all of their money by selling new goods to customers, partnering with resale platforms, partnering with rental platforms, partnering with repair platforms. And this is a trend that I really do think customer shopping behavior is going to adapt to this and look very different in the future. Whereas in the past, our entire wardrobes would have been full of items that we went out and bought with an intention of keeping, maybe using them to death, or maybe, at the end of our life with them, donating. I can see customers now purchasing with an intention to resell, knowing that they're only going to hold the good for a certain amount of time. And you can also see people never actually doing the purchasing, right? And moving towards renting items that they know they only need for a finite period of time. And so the idea of ownership is really going to change, and it's going to be much more time boxed. And the idea of purchasing goods with value so that you can actually resell them later is really going to change. So this, I think, is very exciting, but also really going to flip some of the way that our businesses operate on their heads. And I can see that, 10 years from now, a customer's wardrobe is going to be a much smaller percentage stuff that they own and have an intention to keep, and a much higher percentage of things that they've just got in there temporarily through a rental model, and then a whole section off to the side that's currently listed on some resale site somewhere that they're just waiting to ship out to the next owner.
That would definitely significantly improve the amount of stuff that I have in my closet. After all, thanks to lockdown, I only recently gained a lot of weight. But
yeah, I think that we're all struggling about that. But I think when I think about like shopping, right, like the actual purchasing behavior, this is really going to change it. When I think about how customers are going to shop more in terms of the channels that they're going to use and the environments that they're going to use, there's so much talk about the metaverse, and I'll touch on some of this during my presentation. And beyond the hype, it is a new channel, and it is going to be huge, and it is going to present a real opportunity for, we talk a lot right now about the idea of customers being able to shop whenever they want, wherever they are. the metaverse and the technologies that will be supported in the metaverse are really going to allow that to happen. Discovery is no longer going to need to happen in an app or on a website or in a store. Through wearables, you will literally be discovering as you're walking down the street and looking at people and looking at what they're wearing. And so the way that we think about shopping, the way that we think about learning about goods and accessing channels towards purchasing goods is really going to change as these technologies evolve and as the idea of the metaverse becomes much more real in our everyday lives.
I've always known the Matrix would one day become true.
Yeah.
You're one of the few people who have actually successfully been able to tell me what blockchain is. Could you tell me how blockchain as an authentication technology can change how we do online purchases?
Oh, well, I didn't realize that I was one of the people that actually is able to explain the blockchain. As an authentication technology, look, I think the thing that looking at things through a luxury angle, and again, going back to that topic of resale and how much of a trend of how much that's going to be part of our shopping behavior in the future. The thing that's great about blockchain technology, which still has a lot of room to improve, right? We all know that there's concerns around the environmental impacts. But if you go back to what it's actually trying to achieve, and it will figure out a way to achieve it in the way that we need it to, is that decentralization of information, that immutable access to the history behind a good. When you think about luxury, it's so, it just aligns so well because you buy luxury goods as a collector of them. And when you spend a significant amount of money on something, it's either going to be handed down to the next generation or it's going to be handed over to another lover of those luxury goods through resale and so blockchain authentication technology combined with that, it just gives us a much smoother process through which to do it so that the next buyer can really trace the history of that. I mean, you asked authentication, but this is a number of different things tied together. This is authentication, it's provenance, it's ownership, but it's hard to talk about one without the other when you're thinking about an actual customer journey. But it's going to make so many of those processes so much simpler. And the other thing that it can really unlock, which is lost right now in the way that goods go through their life cycle, is the ability for the brand that created the item in the first place to remain part of its journey, to have an ability, if the second consumer, the third consumer wishes to have a connection back to that brand, to know where it came from and have a channel back to them. So I think that it's really exciting from a customer perspective in having trust and in having knowledge about the history of this item, where it's been, the life that it's had, who's been using it. Like this is kind of why you buy secondhand sometimes, is so that you can get a piece of that the journey of the actual item, but then it also really unlocks an opportunity for the brands when it comes to connecting with their customers, because those secondhand customers are still their customers. They're still a lover of their brand and their goods.
Ah, damn it, I wanted to make a joke about Bitcoin there, but the moment's gone.
I'm not a crypto queen, so I probably wouldn't have even gotten it.
Funny enough, like in early 2016, I was having a discussion with somebody about this. And he was like, okay, you've convinced me, Bitcoin is never going to be anything. And he transferred me like 0.2 Bitcoins. I just kept it until the end of 2017. And I got like $400 for it then.
Yeah. But now if it was only 0.2, what now you would probably get like $1,000. How much is it now? I don't even know.
Once at like 40,000.
Oh no, actually, yeah, Bitcoin. I'm thinking ETH, but yeah, Bitcoin is up in the tens of thousands.
Originally, I wanted to call a session where you're going to speak in at the conference Futurology. But my boss.
No, please, no, let's not. Like, I really have a aversion to any of these like fluffy, this is recorded, so I expect you to delete this part of the conversation. But I have a real aversion to these like fluffy titles, like futurists and things like that. Look, the reality is that we don't know what the future is going to be. All we are fortunate enough to be is people who have the time to look at it and to read all of the research and to hear what other people are saying and formulate an opinion about it based on what we know from our previous history, right? And look at it through our lens that none of us know like what's actually going to happen. So yes, no, we'll come up with a title, but let's please not make it anything too
Don't worry. I just wanted to say that my boss also said the same thing you said, and said you definitely will not call it futurology.
Okay, great.
What is the digital fashion innovation you're currently most excited about?
Yeah, I haven't actually written my notes about this one yet. So let me think. Maybe you'll need to ask me again. Okay, ask me again.
What is the digital fashion innovation you're the most excited about currently?
Yeah, there's so much cool stuff happening when we think about fashion and we think about innovation in general. But one thing that we're seeing a significant improvement on, which I think is really exciting because we've been waiting for it in order to unlock so many more things, is digital fashion in the sense of 3D garments and virtual representations of physical goods. For years, we've been looking for like the best solutions around these, because once you have those 3D assets, those dynamic 3D assets that have the physics involved and the ability to render them in different environments and render them on different body types, we really unlock a lot of what it is that we really hope the future of shopping is going to look like, right? The idea that you walk into a store, an online store, and the models change to look like you and to look like you with your skin tone and your body type, so that you can see every garment in that store rendered in a way that would actually reflect how it's going to look at you. Like, that's like the dream of shopping in a digital environment or in a virtual world. But for so long, the cost of producing those assets and even the technology around how to do it has been really far away. But we're seeing real innovations in that space. And, within Farfetch, we spend our open innovation team works with a lot of startups. We've recently launched some things in partnership with Snap and other companies. And so you're really seeing that start to happen. And for me, that's really exciting, because we've been waiting for it. There are so many things that we will now be able to do once we have an effective, efficient, cost-effective way of producing those 3D garments and being able to render them.
Isn't that like how they had it in the movie Clueless?
Oh gosh, like, we're all still waiting for that Clueless closet, and it's still not there. It's so funny how many meetings I am in, and it all just goes back to that Clueless closet that we all just still wish we had, and we're not there yet. And I think that something that we have to be careful about is we see a lot of examples. I see a lot of articles and videos and things posted on LinkedIn that makes it look like we're there, but they're not. They are renderings that were only ever done digitally. They are not reflections of real goods that were then transformed to be digital. And therefore they are not a reflection of how that real good is ever going to look on a real human body. But a lot of the kind of creative graphics and creative design work that's happening lends us to believe that these solutions already exist, but they don't. So we have to be careful there. And so from that perspective, like there's still work to be done. And unfortunately, we still don't have Cher's closet.
What are you most looking forward to do at the Savant E-commerce London? And why do you think other e-commerce executives should attend the conference in October?
I am most excited to be around other people again. As I said, as an extrovert, being home and working from home alone has been really difficult. And I'm really excited to hear other people's perspectives on these topics, you know, innovation and the future. It's just everybody's guess. We're just working with the research that we've done and the past experience that we have. And so everybody's opinion and input into that is valuable. And so I'm really looking forward to bouncing ideas around with other people, hearing feedback on what it is that I have to say, and just connecting and networking again. And I think that there are plenty of other e-commerce professionals out there who are ready and looking for the same thing.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Nina.
Thank you. Great. Good. What do you think? Fine?
Terrifically well.
Okay.
This will be perfect. My colleague will cut it up. And as mentioned, I will send it over to you and you can forward it to your PR department.
Okay, cool. Great. Well, thank you for being able to fit me in a bit earlier. It's a nice day outside, so I actually want to go out, see what's happening. Are you in London?
Used to be. After the first lockdown, I left for my hometown of Vienna, Austria. And I've been here ever since, but probably early next year I will return.
So are you not going to be at the event?
If possible, and I don't have to quarantine, I will be there. If they tighten regulations and I have to go into quarantine, I will not.
How many people are you expecting?
Around 100.
Okay. Cool.
Usually it's around 250, but we don't want to risk getting into quarantine quabbles.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, maybe I'll see you IRL. But yeah, send through the clips that you think are the most interesting to use, and I'll get that approved.
I wanted to ask you something more. We're having, as you mentioned, there's usually a lot of old white men at these conferences. I wanted to ask whether you could suggest a few more female e-commerce and digital marketing executives that could be interested in joining the speaker lineup.
Yeah. Okay. Link me again to the agenda, because you can just put it in the chat here. Like, are there specific topics that you want covered?
Specific topics. 1 second. Well, we still got an open keynote in the area of omnichannel. Also one in innovation, digital transformation, and one in the area of sustainability. And
so
of
what do we mean by innovation, digital transformation?
Well, I originally got the idea for this session when I talked to a gentleman from TVH. He told me that when the first lockdown hit, his team basically in 4 months had to do the digital transformation roadmap they had laid out for 4 years. And
right, so the acceleration of things,
yes,
that like they were supposed to bring anyway.
Yeah, the sped up digital transformation, and maybe how they incorporated startup methods to increase flexibility, things like that.
Okay, and then another one about omnichannel. Oh, you know who I could ask? I don't know. Okay, I'll ask. I can ask Connie. She is the CEO of Astrid and Miu, which is a kind of like a contemporary jewelry brand. that has grown like significantly, has both physical and online presence. And so maybe she could talk about their omni-channel strategy, like what made them think they started online only, what made them open stores, how they've responded to the pandemic. You know, like she could be good. She's an Asian American woman. Yeah, I mean, it's hard because there's not that many of us. Let me have a think about it. What about like startup kind of founders, or do you want people from more established retailers? I mean, it's an e-com conference.
We would prefer more established companies, but if you have like somebody who does a really interesting thing in startups, I can definitely talk to them and maybe we can figure something out.
Yeah, I think that Connie might be good. And then I'll have a think about other people. What about like Asian men?
Would also be good for our diversity.
Rather than a gay Asian man. He's working at L'Oreal currently, is a digital marketer. He could be interesting. I think a keen, anyway, let me reach out to these people and just send them the agenda. And then I'm sure you can work with them, right, on like the appropriate topic if they're up for doing it. Yeah, and I'll have a think.
The nice thing about the conference agendas is they can change.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to think of a Black female, but most of my network is actually in the startup community when it comes to that demographic, or just not in fashion. Like a lot of my friends are not working in the fashion industry, but leave that with me.
I mean, it doesn't have to be fashion, e-commerce, and digital marketing.
No, yeah, sorry. Not even in e-commerce. Like I'm thinking of a lot of people that are like in finance and law and stuff like that. All right, leave it with me. Let me have a think.
Okay. Emma, thank you very much and enjoy the outdoors.
Okay, thanks. Bye.